Good morning. Welcome to Divinity 648. My name is Christina. I'm a high vibrational energy intuitive. Um, these are messages for March the 17th, 2022. Happy St. Patrick's Day. It is 6:41 in the morning. So, as a high vibrational energy intuitive, I like to absorb as much of the energy as it comes through, understand it before I discuss it. And if you've been listening, I've been talking a lot about equinox and solstice, but primarily equinox season and the major transformative energy that it is bringing forward for everyone, regardless of their spirituality, their religion, or their vibration. So, um, a lot of different scenarios have been happening for the average collective, okay? And things are just like starting to hit the fan for a lot of people. Number one, if you are very high vibrational, you are no longer tolerating meat at all. If you are a high vibe person, regardless of where you're at, age wise, minors can be high vibe. If you are a high vibe person, you don't want to eat meat. You're having a hard time swallowing, digesting, touching, handling in any way any type of meat. Um, Seafood is meat. I don't care who you are, what you think you know. The flesh of something that was once alive is what we consider meat. Okay? So, seafood is meat. You are having a hard time consuming any type of meat. You should be primarily drawn to or noticing that these are the things happening to you. And again, I have to remember, um, depending on your vibration, either you're unable to touch it, tolerate it, handle it, and eat it. If you are on a different vibe, you are entering this level, and the way that you're reacting to it will be unique to your vibration depending on where you're at. But the ultimate um, shift happening for all higher vibrational individuals who consider themselves light workers. If you are a true light worker, if you are a true divine being, a true high vibrational being, as of today, you have seen, at least since March 5th, that you are not eating or consuming flesh of any kind, okay? Um, you're more drawn to fruits, water, veggies, nuts over anything. You're also going through massive energy shifts. The energy shift has been non-stop since March 3rd. And I mean non-stop, okay? Um, the energy shifts have been enhancing abilities, and I mean enhancing them on levels that supersede anything you even thought was possible. Like the things you were doing were blowing your mind. The things you have been doing since the 3rd should be blowing that out of the water as well. Um, the chakras are, they're larger, number one, almost like tripled in size. The crown chakra, I know that when I experienced the upgrade on my crown chakra through this shift, um, it was bigger, it was heavier at first. And my guides were teaching me how to stay balanced with all of that energy being so wide open. And luckily for me, they did all of the chakras in the same night. But I did have difficulties in the morning adjusting. So I know with the first part of the shift, I was extremely sensitive to sound. Everything was louder for me. Even if people were being extremely quiet, it was extremely loud. I had a hard time being outside with the music on in the car. I had a hard time. I didn't mind being quiet in the car because everything outside of the car was loud in the car. Um, Foreseeing, uh, and not just, you know, if you weren't foreseeing or precognitive, um, it really shot up and it's instant, right? Like I know my children, including my niece, um, were getting precognitive knowledge, not through sleep, but just the knowing and things unfolding within a day or two, exactly the way that they would say it. Um, Same thing up here, right, with me. Going and dealing with individuals and knowing their next move and knowing how to properly go about something and knowing to be present for certain things to prevent certain other things and knowing when to walk away from a location and leave the property in order to cross paths with individuals who were doing wrong by you and thought that they weren't being noticed, right? um Regardless if their actions were at that point or if they were prior to, the knowledge was instant. So, another part of the energy shifts was the ability to instantly know the wrongs being done to you, no matter the gaslighting or methods of manipulation, right? Um, I can't give any examples from my personal life for so many reasons, but if you are a high vibe, a true light worker, a true divine being, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Individuals and their toxicity and their behavior is being exposed. And they're being exposed by the individuals that they least expected it from, right? It's almost like the people who were working together with the other individuals to cause harm and wreak havoc in other people's lives without trying are sabotaging the people that they were working with because they know all their dark deep secrets or all of the bad things that they've done in the past. And when they're trying to build the confidence or interacting with the individual that they were attacking or trying to set up or manipulate somehow, some way, they unknowingly or unintentionally and unconsciously released key information. You were put in the right place at the right time for separate reasons to expose other circumstances to you. And that was amazing. And that's been nonstop as well, right? Um, you're seeing that karmic cycles really are repeating in a sense where now you are already doing what you need to do, staying in alignment with where you need to be in alignment. The blessings that were stolen from you in the past have been returned to you in different forms. You're not following the wrong steps and slipping into the wrong um, tr- uh, scenarios, right? So, a good example is a few years ago um, when I was working with Yamoja and Oshun and Shango and Ilegua, the seven African powers were done teaching me healing methods and uh, communication methods and defense methods and how to control my energy and call back my power and release myself from toxic connections that were really overpowering to me. At that point, you really, how can I say this nicely? It's like So back when they were working with me, I got a reading, you know, and I reached out to this woman named Kathy Foster, and she made a comment to me. She's like, "We're not allowed to read ourselves." And in a sense, she's right, because if we know what's going to happen at all times, we will change things because consciously we want positive, loving dynamics for us. We don't want hardships. We would try to avoid those karmic lessons. And being who we are, we're not allowed to. I mean, we're supposed to play out in the karmic lessons that we agree to. And if we're consciously reading ourselves and aware of a karmic lesson that's going to hurt us, our defense mechanism would be to avoid it, which is why when we're reading cards, one will get information on ourselves, or if we channel ourselves, we'll get the information, but the divine will strip it from our conscious state while we're interacting in that karmic cycle to prevent us from sabotaging the mission, right? For to prevent us from carrying out our role as we agreed to, whether we did it before we came here or we did it while we were here. And the higher the vibration, the more control you have over your karmic cycles and lessons. So, a few years ago, after I was done learning how to heal through the seven African powers, and after I was done learning how they are associated with my African lineage and my Hispanic lineage as well. And I got to see the beautiful side of them and the dark side of them. And, I got to learn the power and the pain, um, which, is so important, right? When you learn a divinity, when you learn a god, when you learn an Orisha, right? We call them so many different words, but for me, they're all gods. They're all goddesses. Um, and they all have two sides to them, the feminine and the masculine. And the feminine side is always that light, loving, positive side to them, regardless if they're a man or a woman as a manifestation. And the masculine side to them is always that disciplinary, powerful. I mean, the feminine side is very powerful as well, but the intimidating part, the dangerous part, is usually associated with the masculinity side of the god. Um, so when I was done working with them for being so obedient and following through and completing my lessons, uh, they allowed me a personal reading of the next 6 years of my life. 5 years, excuse me, because the sixth year I wasn't allowed to touch. I wasn't allowed to interact with. But the first 5 years of the reading that they gave me, they let me um, interact with the level of my participation in karmic cycles, because I have closed out my karmic lessons. I'm not in karmic cycles anymore. I am still around individuals dealing with karmic cycles, but I have free will to participate in those cycles or release myself from them. So at that point, when we were doing my reading, we did it on a marker board. And they let me see what individuals were going to try to seduce or subdue or harm me or be beneficial and positive individuals in my life. And I got to decide my role in all of that at that point. And some of the roles I was not able to remove myself from, I had to agree to them. Um, with the understanding that the outcome would be rewarding, that my pain in those lessons were not going to be unjust, right? Like it wasn't going to be unbalanced at the end. So one of them was going to a place of employment and being pursued by an individual, not because I wanted that, but because that's a part of the karmic cycles of that individual and the other individual involved. Um, and I saw it on the board and I didn't like the way that it made me feel, but they would not allow me to remove myself from that dynamic as far as my reading went. And then when the things played out in real life, I was able to not participate in any way the way that they wished or wanted me to. Meaning, craft was done on me to kind of make me promiscuous, and that's what that was about on the board. I was being attacked at that point to be promiscuous, and what they wanted for me was to be promiscuous with certain individuals whose names were written on my board. And in real life, when those events came up, I was able to not participate. And when I asked, my guides, when I asked Elegua, the gatekeeper, the guy who, the god, because we have two sides, the God who governs all crossroads and handles all everyone's gatekeepers, and the main gatekeeper. When I was talking to Ilegua, he, what was explained to me was, you are a true divinity. This is not fake. 648 is the vibration under the resurrection of Christ. And it is the vibration of resurrection, and you are chosen. And no matter what craft is thrown on you to confuse you and block you from that knowledge, you will always and consistently be reminded of that by superseding the expectations, the wants, the desires, and the craft bestowed upon you. So I was able to not participate in spell work activities that were thrown at me as far as trying to make me be promiscuous, because the vibration that I embody, the individual that I am, is not promiscuous, not on any level, not at all. I'm not promiscuous. I've not really ever been promiscuous. Um, in the past, before working with gods, I gave into craft because I wasn't aware of I wasn't taught that part of lessons or reawakens to that level of my lessons as of yet. But now, being fully awakened, I see the bullshit before the bullshit touches me. And I am very protected. And I don't even question my actions or doubt them, because I know I am doing in where I'm supposed to be. Everything else written on that board, the details of it are very blurred to me, because again, we're not allowed to retain certain information because certain karmic cycles we're not allowed to walk away from. So if you have a lover, here's one situation that clients were bringing to my attention. Lovers are being revisited by past persons who have had children with other individuals, are addicted somehow, some way, to either alcohol or drugs or shopping or just toxicity in general, right? Being toxic, gossipy, wreaking havoc on other people's lives. It doesn't have to be drug addictions, it could just be their, true nature. So those toxic people are coming back and they want, love and all this stuff, but they're not loving. They're just looking for the stability. They're just looking for that comfort. They're just looking for that way out. Um, a lot of people right now are dealing with that karmic cycle. I'm so blessed to not be stuck in any of those repetitive cycles. I'm not attached to anyone. I'm not attached to anything. My soul contracts have been fulfilled. I am not in any type of obligation to participate with anyone's fuckery. Although I've noticed it constantly being projected at me. And while talking to certain individuals and walking by certain individuals, I'm able to pick up truth. So people are coming back. They're not in love with you, but they're in love with the dynamic that comes from you, through you, or because of you. And that's sad because a lot of people are still not healed from what they experienced with those individuals. So when those individuals come back gaslighting you and being, their true authentic self to you, your heart wants you to forgive them. Your heart wants you to believe that they will fall in love with you eventually, even though the child's not yours. And you're going to probably, deal with two things. Either you're stepping into that space and you're trying to force that person to love you and fall back in love with that person. In the long run, you're going to be hurt. You're going to be hurt because those who are coming to you right now from your past are not coming to you necessarily from a genuine standpoint. There's some layer of deceit coming through. And your karmic lesson here is to remember past actions, remember the past tendencies, and apply them. Look at your surroundings, pay attention to their behavior, you know, pay attention. History repeats itself. It has to because of the way that karmic energy unfolds, the way it orbits around us. Okay? So, for one group of you, you are dealing with someone who had a child with someone else, regardless if it was a man or a woman. The grass wasn't greener, and they want to come back. But they're not coming back to you because they're madly in love with you. They're coming back to you because they're realizing that they can't find better, or what they thought was better is not better. You have free will. You can step into that cycle again and enjoy that to the best of your ability, and understand this going in, you will get hurt. Somehow, some way, you're going to get hurt. Or you can walk away from that dynamic and let them deal with their consequences for abusing your presence in their life. You can call back your power, cut those cords, stand in your power, and move forward. You made your bed. You fucking lie in it. I'm good. I'd rather sleep standing up than fucking lay down with you in that shit. Okay? Keep moving. Heal yourself. Don't ever give up on love. Don't ever think that your best is going to be a narcissistic fuck who has done nothing but gaslight you, disrespect you, shit on you, use you, abuse you mentally, verbally, or emotionally. It doesn't have to be physically. Okay? Walk away from that shit. You don't need it. It's like that post that was flying around for the longest time that no longer flies around for some reason. It's that post where there was a child holding this little ratted teddy bear, and Jesus or God, whatever you wanted to put them as, was right before her, and behind his back he had an even bigger, better teddy bear. And she was hesitating to give up her teddy bear because she was fearing the unknown, or fearing what blessings was coming in for her. That's that moment, my friend. Give up that person. Walk away from that karmic cycle. Because just when you think you're not getting better, because your past is in front of you, blocking you from what's next, that blessing's here for you. Keep going. Okay? Keep going. For another set of energy, what I could see through the dream state was, well, I should say through the veil, right? Because that's what the dream state's about. It's about releasing yourself from the physical, and being instantly on the other side of the veil, what we consider the veil. or the layers of the energetic realms. Um, the other set of energy was physical abuse, right? Those who have been physically abused. Excuse me. Um, what I was picking up there was, I was watching this energy unfold that was like this these groups of adults and children were um they were like in a it was weird. It was crazy weird. I love being through the veil because of the way that the information comes through, and it's not about what you see over what you experience and how you makes you feel. And that's so key. People always get stuck on, oh, I saw this in my dream, or I saw that when I was on the other side working through energy. It's not about what you see. Spirit work, precognitive moments, visits, energy, being on the other side of the veil is not about what you see, it's what you experience and how it makes you feel. Because everything is energy. What you see is to please you, to help you remember. It's not what you're supposed to interpret. So there was children and adults, and both experiencing trauma. And these children were being matched up with adults who had similar trauma. And if not with the same individuals inflicting the trauma, then with individuals who inflicted similar types of trauma to each of them. So these children were being paired with adults, and the adults were connecting with like adults, and the children were also doing the same. So it's almost like a lot of people might be losing custody or have already lost custody of their kids, or children are being somehow, some way guided to guidance counselors or principals or therapists or anyone out there around them, neighbors, anyone in their life who um, can see them and relate to the things that they're experiencing. So these children felt like they were alone in their minds, like nobody else is going through what I'm going through, or why am I going through all of this? And then they're somehow, some way being paired up with adults who have either gone through it or seen it or just can understand it. And they're feeling that sense of home, because home is not a place, it's a feeling. And they're being paired up with these adults who are not looking at them like they're lying, but are actually seeing truth to what they're saying and are advocating or somehow, some way stepping up for them, or somehow, some way um, trying to be protected by those adults, or and I'm not, some of the children who connected with certain other children and other children's adults, they were um, able to get help, right? So I saw one layer of children get help by, okay, so the children who were connecting to other children then became connected to those children's adults. And they either received guidance, clarity, understanding, motivation, a boost in self esteem, reassurance, or they actually got intervention. Okay. And that intervention would have been maybe DCS, maybe custodial matters, or maybe just the knowledge that they needed to pull themselves up out of like depression or anxiety or suicidal tendencies, um, or victim mentality. Then there's the other children who were paired directly up with adults. And those children were removed from abusive situations, not just physical abuse, but spiritual abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, and sexual abuse. And if not by their direct parent, but then by someone that they were bringing around. So basically, a lot of intervention is unfolding collectively on different levels, right? And this plays a major part in karmic cycles because those adults who were aggressors are no longer able to lie and manipulate their way out of the truth. So if a child has been continuously saying, my parent abused me, my parent abused me, my parent hits me, my parent does this to me, and the parent's like, no, 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 that's fucking lies, they're no longer getting away with it because now there's something to support it. Or it's been going on for so long and the consistency and the statements have not wavered in any way, but yet the adult statements are constantly wavering. Or there's circumstances that have unfolded which discredit and challenge um, the statements made by the adult. So those karmic cycles are the aggressors are being exposed regardless, and the children are getting help regardless. Um, Someone's being the light regardless. The other end of it was so on that marker board, I had saw some children in my life who were going to go through periods of depression, suicidal tendencies, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, homelessness. I saw children who were going to go through emotional pain that would break an individual, or circumstances that would put nothing but fear into an individual. And my first reaction on my marker board was, oh my God, just give them to me. Somehow, some way, just give them to me. If this is what they're going to go through, if this is how their life is going to be, just give them to me. I don't want them to be raped. I don't want them to be abused. I don't want them to be hooked on drugs. I don't want them to be suicidal. Just send them my way and I'll be that light, however the divine wants to work through me. So I've had children approach me for spiritual guidance, not for themselves, but for the adults in their lives, because their adults in their lives are aggressors and their actions are impacting the children around them in ways that they cannot comprehend. So it's not that at that point on my marker board, I put just, I'll take them in. I'll bring them into my home. I'll take care of them. Like that was my extent. That was my willingness, my compromise, my part of the contract. I would fulfill up to this point, which would be the full. I would do everything that is required to help these children. But as that unfolded, it didn't unfold in that way. Thank God. You know, I would always be here for someone, but um, being with the mother is always most important. Being with a parent who can consciously, properly provide for that child is always preferred over anything. Okay. Um, and the way that it is unfolding is their situations are being presented to me. And instead of me running out and grabbing them and trying to keep them and trying to take care of them, I'm allowed to give them the guidance. I'm allowed to send them the energy. I'm allowed to pray over them. I'm allowed to give them knowledge. Um, and that is more than enough for me. Karmic cycles are closing out because of so many different reasons, including the fact that, number one, the average individual still thinks we have a 30-day. No, we don't have 3D. We have a physical realm, but the lowest vibration in the physical realm is 5D. Okay? That's why everybody's seeing people for who they are. Kali, Oya came through, painted everybody's masks gray. Oya was that force that put people into that confident motion that allowed them to behave as if though they were incognito and nobody can see their fuckery. Um, and Jamoja set her waves into motion that never stop. And it is to either keep you raised up high enough that you are free from the toxicity and the attempts on your life and your blessings, or you're anywhere from that point straight down to you are being punished for your toxicity and actions. And only you know where you're at on that, right? So all of that has been unfolding and it's never going to stop. Those God's energies are here in full force and they're not going away. We are in the fifth dimension at all times on the lowest vibration. We are influenced by all of those gods at all times. And that's every god, regardless of the pantheon. You know, I had one client tell me, do you think gods cross pantheons? And I just, they don't even recognize pantheons, okay? Let me tell you. I don't care what anybody says to me. Working with who I've worked with, they do not recognize any of that. That is a human being, physical realm thing, okay? All gods work together. Some of them have some ego, not ego, it's the masculine side. There's some conflict, but not really, because they still come together for the whole. They don't ever battle each other. You know, there might be some like friction because of the way that they vibrate, but not one god is an enemy of another. You know, there's rivalries, but when it comes to humans and doing what needs to be done, not one god is against the other. And what you guys call angels and saints and divinities and deities and orishas and all this other shit, it's like, friends, there's no difference. You throw so many different titles on so many different things because you don't understand at that moment or your comprehension is limited. But believe me, every single one of them is a true divine God with a masculine and a feminine side to them. And they are unlimited in what they are capable of. Okay? Some of them specialize in certain things, but they are all unlimited. Okay? And they all love and work with each other. They have rivalries. They will discipline one another if they need to. But make no mistake, they are all equal to when it comes to us. They are all gods. An angel is no different than a saint. A saint is no different than a god. A divinity is no different than a god. An orisha is no different than a god. So they're all here. Everybody's been praying to them. Africa is hugely significant. All of the pain and bloodshed has provoked the ascension of this planet. And now, with a repeat of the Holocaust by Mr. fucking Vladimir Putin, because he did not go into Russia. I mean, he did not go into Ukraine to just take over two territories. Okay, it was much bigger than that. Much bigger. And unfortunately, for someone who is so, for someone who claims to be spiritual, you don't ever attack anyone the way that he has. And that is terrorism. That is not anything but terrorism. And what he did was really open that portal energy that they needed for a major intervention. So individuals who have lost their lives, individuals grieving those who lost their lives, their pain, that vibration of pain, which went out into the universe, it triggered more gods, more what we call aliens to come in. Things are about to change drastically after equinox because the amount of bloodshed, the amount of innocent lives being taken supersede our right of free will, if that makes sense to you, right? So when the scales come out and they're being weighed, the blood, the feather and the heart, it's not balanced by any of those people who participated in what has been going on. So Mayat is here, Isis is here, Ra's been here since 2018, I think. End of 17 into actually 2018. They're cleaning house. They're exposing you. Mr. Putin did what he did to expose himself for who the fuck he really is to his people, so that way his term can be terminated. Okay? It's sad. It's sad that it took this much pain and suffering to get here. But this is the end of his karmic cycle because he will be overturned. His people will be empowered. His actions will not go unpunished. And if NATO and its allies are not the one who do the real punishing as they are supposed to with their karmic cycles, because karmic cycles are for everything and everyone, companies, people, government branches, all of that. Energy is energy. So if NATO and all the allies don't boss up and treat this as they should, which would be terrorism, and they allow him to not have real corporal punishment, the divine will strip him of his status. He will be assassinated somehow, some way. Something will happen. His karmic cycle is done. His dictatorship is done. Remember what I said? Kali painted everybody's masks gray. And Oya gave them all that confidence that they needed to unfold and behave the way that they wanted to, so that those around them would no longer be blinded to what was being done before them. Bastet, her energy, or Bastat's energy, because all gods have masculine and feminine, that energy has been around for a couple of months, but dominant this month. And to ever find out or see the dead bodies of pregnant women, babies, children, and knowing who Bastet is, it makes sense to me now why that energy is so dominant here. In Africa, there was bloodshed by its own government. In China, the people were trying to overthrow the government literally the day before COVID infected the whole world, right? Right. And so on and so on. And now Russia is attacking Ukrainian people. These are all karmic cycles on all scales coming to an end or repeating. But they're coming to an end because the gods are here. Because of so much pain and suffering, they're actually here. And if the government, NATO, is not able to boss the fuck up like they're supposed to, right? They're the big dogs, right? These are the puppet masters behind the scenes playing games with our presidents and dictators and all that shit. They're the real puppet masters behind the scenes calling all the fucking shots. And I don't even think it's them. I still keep hearing there's another section other than NATO that calls a lot of shots. If they don't do right by the world, because they're supposedly supposed to be in charge of the world, if they don't do right by the world, the gods will step up. Their awakened ones will step up. And energy and life and the world as we know it will be completely changed. This is their time to take control and show all countries and all rulers that violating the sanctity of human life and the natural birth blessing of free will not be tolerated. That's their karmic cycle. That's the judicial system's karmic cycle, the governmental branches' karmic cycles, and it's on various levels and scales depending on where they're at, how far up the chain they are. Failure to adhere to what they're supposed to be doing, such as protecting the sanctity of human life and free will be there unfolding because the divine will let them finish out that karmic cycle. And if they choose to repeat it, they will somehow, some way be plucked from it. Because this is it. Karmic cycles close. And if it gets to be fulfilled as it has been, those people will be removed somehow, some way. Something serious, depending on whatever their energy is, will take place. Okay. The other energy that kept coming through for me was the craft end of things. People are still attempting crafts. They're still conjuring. They're still plotting. They're still wishing hate. They're still trying to kill people. You know, the other day I met with a client and her immediate energy, and I told her, I was like, I don't know if you're person A, if you're person B, because I no longer completely step into my client's energy. I stay in front of it and I just look at everything. So, person A, and this is collective energy now, not just for her. Person A goes about their life, minding their business, trying to stand in the right light at all times, doing the right things. And people around them, which would be all people under person B, see them, attempt to be like them, and when they feel, they get bitter and decide to attack them. So that way they don't possess qualities that the person B wishes they had, or they don't get the attention that person B wishes they were getting or want to get or feel they would be getting if person A was removed from the dynamic. Okay? So person B gets bitter and starts attacking them. And person B gets frustrated because their attempts are not beneficial. Their attempts are not unfolding the way that they had hoped. And instead of person B, consciously seeing, oh shit, I just attacked her with graveyard magic, right? I just did this. I just did that. She should have been fired. This should have happened. Why isn't this happening? Let me go and find somebody who can do something stronger than what I can do, or let me find somebody stronger than the last person I went to. You shouldn't be doing that. What you should have been doing is, oh shit, I went to one powerful fucking person and paid a lot of fucking money to hurt this person and destroy everything this person is supposed to have before them. I've consciously went and took blessings that I saw coming to that person and gave it to people around that person to take those blessings from that person. And they're still going, and they're still pushing, and they're still thriving somehow, some way. Let me fucking stop. Because if my attempts aren't working, maybe I should fucking stop. No, instead, they just kept going. And they kept going harder and harder and harder. And what's happening now is person B's are literally on that threshold of everything that they've sent to the other individual. And I was trying so hard not to laugh during our session because it was collective energy. And it was hysterical to me because people in Group B who gang stalk, throw witchcraft, tamper with people's lives, put them in situations to force them to be promiscuous, to force them, sex tapes without their fucking permission being posted on the internet or passed around, things like that. Anything that violates free will and someone's personal side against their right, it piled up, you know? Think of it like, I can't think of what it's called, but everything's in rotation. So everything's constantly in motion. So picture yourself like a target. You're in the middle. And when you put something out, it goes as far as the outer part of that target, but it never leaves the outer layer. It never leaves past that circle around it, the border, the perimeter. And with every second that goes by, what you sent out starts to come closer to you. It gets pushed by the energy, it gets dragged. And the more you send out, the more comes. And it comes and it comes. And every second it comes in closer to you because it's a circle and it keeps coming through. Okay. And what the divine did to persons B was the divine held it at a certain point. Okay. Right before it hit the person, it stops. Some stuff would trickle through, but most of it just stopped. And it started building up and building up and building up like Mount Trashmore. You just kept adding trash to the pile and it just kept building up. Okay. And the more you sent out, the more just piled up. It piled up high and it piled up wide and it piled up in length. Okay. What equinox is about to do is lift up that gate, or what I should say, what Elegua, equinox Elegua, the God who handles all crossroads, all doors of opportunities, all paths, all lines of communication. You cannot speak to a divinity, a God. You cannot do anything. Your words do not get carried over unless he says so. So now what Allegra is about to do and has started to do is slowly open that gate. Okay? Because now what Allegra is seeing is, okay, you have so much piled up here that if I don't open this gate, it's crowding my space. So Allegra started to open that gate and stuff started to trickle underneath it, almost like a floodgate. And what's going to happen by the end of March is it's going to be completely removed. That gate is going to be gone. And all of the chaos and fuckery that you projected into other people's lives is just going to flood yours. And if it's not going to harm those around you, it's going to harm the shit out of you. And that's your karma. And that's you reaping what you sowed in the lives of other individuals. So if you are a person B who has been attacking and getting frustrated because everything you've done has not been successful, or to the extent that you wanted it to be. And even if it was successful, you still have a portion of what you sent out in that pile, that buildup. And Elegua is, and all of the other gatekeepers underneath him are removing those barriers. They're releasing the floodgates. They're opening them. So that way, everything you've sent out to the universe that was negative and toxic is now yours. It's in front of you to deal with. And you'll know which one you're at. And those of you who were impacted by craft, you have to remember it happened for you, not to you, because the gods cannot give you justice to the extent that is deserved if it doesn't touch you, because then it's not deserved, not to the extent that they deserve. So just know it was not in vain, and trust that what is about to unfold is completely deserving. You know, I flicked through a reading the other day and I heard something, and it was just the validation that I needed. And I've been sitting here silent, waiting and waiting and waiting, hoping that certain individuals will own their shit, but they didn't. Of course they didn't. And now I get to see the karmic cycles before me. So do what you got to do. Never wait for somebody else to save you. Always save yourself. Never get stuck in stagnation. Never allow yourself, listen, there is nothing wrong with falling to your knees, feeling vulnerable, and feeling victimized. But don't ever stay there. Stand up, call back your power, be your own fuel, and engulf yourself in your own light and ascend past everything that was meant to hold you down. Because that's what it takes to be a true lotus flower. You have to come up through the darkest, muddiest points of your life. What these people do to you that is meant to destroy you and break you is really just the fuel and the motivation for you to overcome them and show you what you are capable of and show you just who the fuck you are. And don't ever forget it. Another beautiful thing about the energy shifts coming through for high vibrationals and others in this realm of things is the gift of music. Now, a lot of people have been saying, oh, you're going to be making music, you're going to be doing this, blah, 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 blah. But what they don't realize is it's not necessarily that you're making music. When you sing, regardless if you think you can sing or not, when you sing, that music, that vibration goes out into the universe. It never stops. And the energy out there receives it faster than what we know. And they come to you. They send that energy back to you enhanced, right? It's like God doesn't know to give you the next blessing until you give gratitude for the one you just received. They're waiting for you to give off gratitude to know that it's okay to give you the next phase of things, because you haven't, by not giving gratitude, you're not telling the universe that you acknowledge the blessing that was bestowed upon you. Okay? So by giving gratitude, you receive more. And by singing, you're sending off that vibration of, I'm still here. I'm still thriving. I'm still here, ready for more and doing what I'm here to do. And that's raise the vibration of everyone around you to uplift humanity and to distinguish right from wrong, darkness from light. So sing. Sing in the car, sing in the shower, sing. So that way they can get your vibration and send you back even more blessings. High vibes, we're winning. Just know that.